Hello my quilting family. Today we're bringing you another installment of the coffee themed sew along, and today we're going to make the sugar bowl. There's only two of these that you have to make because they're going to go in opposite corners, and they're kind of cute. This is my mock-up, but it's a really fast and simple little block to do. Don't worry about the two handles. It's not that difficult piecing, but come a little closer and I'll show you how to sew this all together. Okay? So here we've got the sugar bowl all laid out. And the first thing we're going to sew is the handles. That's probably the most difficult part of this block, is the handles, because you are handling smaller pieces. Now if you decide in your quilt you're changing dimensions and all this, make sure you accommodate the handles. If you want those handles to be larger, it's going to affect on these outside pieces, but just letting you know. So the first thing we're going to do is change my foot so that I have a flat foot on, not a 1/4 inch foot, because when I'm doing these stitch and flip triangles or add-ons, I prefer to sew with a flat foot because I just end up with a better product. So what we're going to do is we're going to start over here. And I'm just going to flip this over. Now I know I have to make the piece underneath this shape. So I'm just going to start like this. Get it under my foot the best I can. And if you want to draw lines or, press your seam, or, press the triangle in half, or the square in half, you can go right ahead and do that. That's all fine to do, right? I think I have a pretty good eye when it comes to, I've been doing this for a while, so. But yeah, so now I'm going to do all one side. Then I'm going to do the other side. Now this may look strange. There's one. There's the finger bit with the hole. I'm just going to line that up and do a quick little 1/4 inch. It's nice doing these smaller seams sometimes because you don't have to concentrate for so long on how your 1/4 inch is looking, right? Whether it's too fat, it's too skinny, sometimes people wobble. So here we are. So now, oops, I'm just going to show you what all that looks like in a second. I'm going to change my foot again, because now I don't need that because we don't have any other stitch and flips. So I'm just wiggling out. Put this one in. Okay, now what I'm going to do is take the first part of the handle, and it was on this side. So I'm going to snip them all apart and start finger pressing open. Just the one side first. And I'm cutting off my excess triangle bits because I don't need them in my quilt. I don't need the extra bulk. And here we go. Now I'm actually going to put them how they're going to lie. Right? Like that. And then, come on. Let's do this with the other side. Okay, now we're going to do the other side of the handles. These are easier to do as well if you're doing a bunch of them and you're, chain piecing them along. When I was doing the coffee mug blocks, I had layered up 4. So I mean, once you get the hang of this, layering up and doing multiple blocks, this goes a little quicker. But if you're a person who just likes to do one block at a time, that works too. You probably have, you've got ideas as to what you want that coffee cup or sugar bowl or whatever to exactly look like. And if you take your time, it's fine. It's not a problem. So the first thing we're going to do, now does that start looking like a coffee mug? So I'm going to work along one side first with my 1/4 inch foot and I'm making sure my seams remain open. You don't want these to flip open because it'll create more bulk than you need. Basically, when you're finger pressing them open or ironing the seams open, you are reducing bulk in one area. You're not trimming the seam, therefore you're not losing fabric in your seam. You're just shifting how it's going to do. Now I'm going to start on the other side, of course. And here we go. Making sure everything stays the way it's supposed to. Yep. Okay. There we go. Right it up just a little bit better. Okay. Now I'm going to start sewing this stuff together. That'll work. Now, the first two pieces are this side, the next two pieces are this side. So let's get these finger pressed open and sewn together so we can see the actual handle. Okay, there we go. There's one. There's the other one. I always like laying them back out so I don't make mistakes. And make enough mistakes. Sometimes when you're sewing, you're having a funny day and it's like, oh yeah, that's not gonna work. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so there we go. Now we're gonna take this part of the handle and sew it together. And this part we're going to sew together. Just grab it and sew it together. Now the hard bits are done. All the hard stuff is done. And it's looking good so far. So now I'm going to take the body. And I'm going to make sure that gets all pressed out. There we go, like that. Now I tried to design these blocks so the handles wouldn't match up with the lines in the body. So if you're having problems matching them up, it's okay. They're not supposed to match up. But here we go. We're just going to run the rest of the body through. Man, yeah, I decided I was just going to make it easy for everybody. You don't have to worry about pinning your seams when they're open or nesting seams or anything like that. You don't have to worry about that when you're making these blocks. Makes the block a little easier. And if you're a beginner, it's a little more beginner friendly. You know, sometimes people aren't, you know, they haven't got all this experience and they're like, wow, there's a lot of little pieces here, but it is doable. You just take your time, figure out what you're doing. Okay, I'm going to finger press this open. Okay, there, like so. Take the other handle and open it up. Now, the square goes to the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over because this is more seams. And I'm just going to start this through and then make sure everything else is going to lay flat and not flip close and create bulk. And there we go. Okay. Now, I'm going to press this open. So I'm curious as to how you guys are doing on this. If you're even trying this, or whether you're having fun with it, or you're going, no, not yet, or I am very curious. It should be a cute quilt when we're done. So the bigger block, the bigger yellow background block goes to the bottom, so you know you're in the right spot. So this is starting to come together very quickly, and I'm just going to run it through and make sure all my seams stay open, because that's probably the most important part of this, is that this stays open. Okay, just line this all up, make sure that first seam doesn't flip, and the next. This is a pretty forgiving little block too, right? So, you know, there's ease in, there's ease, the pieces are big enough, they will ease into the block, into the pattern. You know, it's kind of nice having that little bit of extra ease, because when you do smaller blocks sometimes there's no ease and you're relying on every thread counts, you know, and that's sometimes very difficult to do. Okay. Okay, now like the rest, I'm going to sew on the top first. Oh, I gotta do this open. This one has to go open. There we go. Now, I see, look what I did. One of the seams flipped on me. Right here, this one flipped. And you know how you reduce bulk? Instead of picking it, you open this back up, you get as close to the seam as you can and just clip it. So now this lies flat. And there's just a hair bit of bulk now, but it will lie flat when you're, you know, you're sewing, when you're ironing it. So now the top goes on first, and that clipping trick, that's, people have been doing that for a long time, and it doesn't affect the strength of the quilt either, because there's usually, by the time you sew it all together, I use a smaller stitch when I'm piecing normally, but because you're doing a smaller stitch when you're piecing your quilt together, and then you're quilting it, you know, so it stays in place, it's not creating a problem with your seam. So, now it doesn't matter which side you do on this next piece, because they're both the same size and they're both a handle. Okay, so there's the top. And now we're going to do a handle. I'm just taking the one closest to me. And with the bigger piece on top, with all the seams, I'm now going to try and match my points along the coffee cup handle. Right? To make sure I don't start, you know, I get a nice crisp looking block. And then once I finish sewing all of this, I'll get my cameraman to kind of hold it all up for you. So you can see what I mean by the handle being crisp and not cutting off points. Okay. Because you do have a half square triangle there, right? So, I don't know if, you know, maybe I can hold it up close enough. You see where that is? Those points did not get cut off, right? Because you're able to steer because you can see them. And you can see them, here's the back of that block. You can see them right there where you're just a thread width away from that seam. I hope that seam is dark enough here. Here, let me just darken it for you. Hang on. There's the thread that I've cut, and I'm now a thread width away. Oops, I'm a thread width away. Right from that point, that little yellow point. So let's try the next one here. Maybe we'll get a better shot. Okay. There we go. Okay. That's a trick that I use for almost everything now. If I can't make my point, if I can't see my point. So. Yeah. Okay, steering a little bit, that's okay. And home stretch. And last piece goes on. Okay. Here we go. Now the last piece is going to go on the bottom of the cup. There we go. And the only reason I'm sewing it this way, I want to make sure that these stay open. These seams, they need to stay open. Because otherwise we've got too much bulk again. And you don't end up with a twisted seam. Now, here we are. This is what that looks like. It's going to look a whole lot better once it's ironed. So come back and I'll show you the other one that I've made. And that concludes our how to sew this block together. So this is the sugar bowl we just finished sewing. It's kind of cute. The blue makes everything pop off the screen. Unexpected background. It's going to work. It's going to be so much fun. But this is the block I made. And I just can't believe how gorgeous this fabric that Marilyn sent me from Nancy's Notions is. It's just beautiful. Plus the stuff from Nancy's Notion, the jelly rolls, don't have the pinked edges, and they actually do measure 2.5 inches. So these are really cute. We're building so many, and we all started with a mock-up block. We test, you draw out your pattern, you test it with a mock-up. Now I just put these mock-ups from my scraps. Nothing, nothing really, outstanding here, but they'll go as a novelty block in another quilt. The blocks do measure 9.5 unfinished, but they will finish at 9 inches in a quilt. Now, once we start putting all the rest of the blocks together, this is going to be so cool. At this point now, we have everything sewn except for the center panel. So this will be one of these quilts that you're not really going to see what it looks like until it's done. But the center panel should be cute. It'll work. All these beautiful rich browns, lovely black tones, outstanding reds, splashes of yellow and blue, orange. I mean, yeah, they're going to be great. This is going to be wonderful. So, like I say, this has been so much fun so far. I can hardly wait for you to come back next week and see what else we're sewing. It's going to be a fairly large couch throw, and I'm deciding now whether or not we're going to do a piece border, because a piece border is always such a great scrap buster. So come sew with me and conquer your Mount Scrapmore. Okay, see you next week. Bye! If you have questions about what you saw in this video, or you have ideas for content or something you want to see us do, please put those comments in the description below. But also, while you're there, like, share, and subscribe with your friends. That would really help us out. Okay, I want to thank you and have a great day.